That is a picture from 2024, and we're putting the band back together tonight to help get you ready for the 2025 NFL Draft to be held in Green Bay at the end of the month, so we are almost there. Hi again, everybody, and thank you for being with us. That's Louis Riddick. That's Booger McFarland. That's the man who invented the draft, Mel Kiper Jr. I am Greeny, and we are here to get you set for all the action, all the wheeling, all the dealing, all the picks that will be made as the entire NFL is remade at the end of the month in Green Bay. And you know what I say? Every good show starts with Shefty. So let's begin with Adam Schefter, who always joins us, of course, throughout draft night and will be with us throughout the hour here tonight. And Shefty, let's begin at number one. Let's talk about Cam Ward and the Titans. What can you tell us?
Greeny, with each day that goes by, it feels like the chances of the Titans selecting Cam Ward rise and the chances of them trading that pick fall. They seem to have fallen more and more in love with Cam Ward after private workouts, public workouts, visits at the Combine, visits in Tennessee. They even had the Titans owner at the private workout last Friday at Miami to meet and talk with Cam Ward. Everything that the organization has gotten back from Cam Ward has been favorable, and right now he is tracking to be the #1 overall pick, and we've been saying that for weeks now, but it feels like it's been reinforced. And unless the Giants or Browns can make some type of unforeseen, gargantuan offer that the Titans can't turn down, Cam Ward is going to go #1 to Tennessee.
Yep,
all right, Mel, so the question is that the right
seems what it's going to be
for the Titans, with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter considered by most to be the best players in this draft, and Shedeur Sanders considered by you to be the best quarterback in this draft? Are the Titans making the right choice if they go Cam Ward at 1?
Green, I get it. You talk about the general manager coming in new, wants to handpick his quarterback. A head coach who inherited the previous quarterback, Will Levis, wants his own quarterback, and the wow factor that Cam Ward possesses gives him the edge with some worlds. You would say a lot of people over Shedeur Sanders. The wow factor being the explosive arm. 17 rushing touchdowns over the last 3 years. He can move the pocket. He's got all those arm angles he can throw from. Make any throw, tight windows, all that. Now can get a little reckless, a little careless. He cut down on the fumbles. He became a little bit better in that area this year, no question about that. Took less sacks. Didn't put as much pressure on the O-line as he did previous 2 stints where he took a lot of sacks. So for Cam Ward, it all came together this year. Like I said, cutting down on the mistakes, not putting the ball in harm's way as much, yet showcasing that big-time arm, and he certainly can move that pocket and those arm angles. Like I say, the wow factor, the hand-picked quarterback for the new GM and the head coach, Brian Callahan, in his second year, who obviously frustrated by Will Levis, and not patient because it wasn't his quarterback. Much more patience will come with Cam Ward.
And I'll just add to that, his personality fits that of a franchise quarterback. If you look at what Tennessee's got right now in Will Levis, nothing against him, but we talk about his love for mayonnaise more than his ability to play the quarterback position. And so I think you need to bring somebody in there. Their personality
mayonnaise
is going to be a
and banana
force multiplier,
peels.
somebody that can galvanize the locker room. That position is a de facto leadership position, whether you want to or not. And when you talk to people in Miami, Cam Ward is that. From the day that he got there, everybody galvanized around him, and he was the leader of that football team. They need a personality shift. They need a culture shift in Tennessee, and he's just the guy to do that.
So, Louis, Shefty mentioned right at the beginning, will there be some sort of king's ransom that someone will be willing to pay? Well, the Browns are sitting at 2. They need a quarterback. The Giants are sitting at 3. Despite some of their signings, they need a quarterback. Should either or both of those teams be on the phone with Tennessee and not willing to get off the phone until they make a deal?
If they have the conviction, yeah. Because, look, quarterback evaluation is all subjective anyway. We can all sit here, all 3 of us will have different opinions about quarterbacks, when we're sitting here trying to discuss them and whether or not they are franchise caliber players. And we all know also, though, that a lot of their fortunes, that being quarterback prospects, are going to largely be determined by the organizations that they go to. And it's not so much just about them in particular. So, again, to answer your question, should the Browns and Giants be looking to try and move up to #1? If they really feel that Cam Ward could really do for their organization what the people who they have currently can't do, and that he is a decade-long type of quarterback, franchise-altering quarterback, then, yeah, you make the call. But if I'm Mike Borgonzi and I'm the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, it's going to take a king's ransom and then some. That's my own that's because of my personal feelings about Cam Ward, his journey, what he will bring to Tennessee, and how I think he will reshape the fortunes of that franchise. In order for me to not select him, you basically got to give me your whole draft.
Yeah,
all your picks.
Right, and I think they can call. I don't think Tennessee's listening because I think Tennessee understands what they have in Cam Ward, and that's okay. If you're the Browns and you're the Giants, you stick and pick. You're going to get what people think is the most talented player in the draft, and Abdul Carter, a generational player, and Travis Hunter, a guy who's going to play DB and wide receiver. So it's okay. Just don't mortgage the entire future for a player that you don't think is capable. And by all accounts, we all think Cam Ward is number one, and after that, there's a little drop-off in QB2.
All right, so let's dive a little more.
And that doesn't mean he's
going to
be great in the NFL, but
like the Titans are going
he is going to be the first quarterback
picked overall, and it does not appear that they're going to be willing to trade that away. We just talked about the Cleveland Browns having the second pick.
So the draft really starts at 2. What do the Browns do? Quarterback or not a quarterback? They obviously need one.
Since returning to the NFL in 1999, the Giants, we mentioned, will pick.
Do you guys think Deshaun Watson's ever going to play again in the NFL?
QBR last year. Now we know they've added Russell Wilson. We know they've added Jameis Winston. So Shefty, let's live in a world where, as you said, Cam Ward does go number 1 to Tennessee. Then we get to Cleveland at 2, the Giants at 3. What do we expect with their plans?
Right now, Greeny, just under a month away from the NFL draft, it sounds increasingly unlikely that Shedeur Sanders would wind up going 2 or 3. And that is where it would get interesting. The story of the draft then would become, where is Shedeur Sanders going to go? Now, I still think the Cleveland Browns are still talking about whether or not change in philosophy and a shift in their thinking and come around to Shedeur. But the way that I'm reading it right now is that he doesn't figure to be either team's pick right now through the tea leaves. Again, we'll see if that turns out to be right. The Browns trade for Kenny Pickett. The Giants sign Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And with the blue chip talents that are looking like they'll be available here, Abdul Carter from Penn State, Travis Hunter from Colorado. Right now, my sense, not a report, but my sense is that it would be a non-quarterback at 2, a non-quarterback at 3, and then we would be off and running on draft night, wondering and speculating about where Shedeur Sanders might go in this NFL draft.
All right, let's take those teams one at a time. Lewis, starting with Cleveland. If they bypass Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, if they like him or whoever it may be, if they bypass quarterback at number 2, is that the right thing to do considering their quarterback room right now is Kenny Pickett and a Deshaun Watson who is not going to play this coming year and most likely will never play for the Browns again?
Look, the expectations within this organization are set by the owner. Okay, so if he feels as though bypassing a quarterback is the right decision because he's not going to hold it against the coaching staff and the rest of the organization if they underachieve because they don't have a franchise quarterback on their roster, then that's on him. Okay, and we've already said, look, quarterback evaluation is largely subjective anyway. And if they don't feel as though he is a guy who represents great value at number 2, then go ahead and take a guy like Abdul Carter, who, without a doubt, is going to give you probably the kind of return on investment that you expect out of the number 2 overall pick. Look, this is an organization, quite honestly, when it comes to quarterback play, look, I don't really know what their standards are as far as how they evaluate this position or really what goes into ultimately pulling the trigger as far as making a decision about this position. Because they had a franchise quarterback in their fold already in Baker Mayfield. They sent him on his way because they thought that Deshaun Watson was going to be the guy, although he had a bunch of controversy surrounding him. And here we are again. We're right back at the starting point again talking about quarterback play. So I don't know what their standard is, but I just know this. Whatever they do at number 2, they need to get the return on investment immediately that comes associated with the number 2 overall
I would
pick.
agree with that. And you add to that they admitted they missed on Deshaun Watson. So now are we going to reach at number 2 and get another quarterback and miss on that one? Or are we going to allow our head coach, who by all accounts is on good standing, Kevin Stefanski, he's won Coach of the Year a couple of times. We realize he's a very good coach. Or we're going to take the best player available, realizing that we could come back later in the draft and get a quarterback that our head coach can draft and develop. Since Kevin Stefanski has been offensive coordinator, head coach, or quarterback coach, the best quarterback he's had from a performance standpoint has been Kirk Cousins. He's a pretty good coach as far as coaching guys up. So I think there's enough confidence in him. Let's take the best player available, that's Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter in your mind, and come back later in round 2 or round 3 and get a quarterback and allow this coach who can develop QBs to do that.
All right, so then, Mel, in your most recent mock draft, you have the Giants taking Shedeur Sanders at 3. Let's live in a world now. I'm fast-forwarding us. It's April 24th. We're sitting there in Green Bay, and the 3rd pick in the draft comes, and as Shefty says, The Giants do not take Shedeur. They take Travis Hunter. They take Abdul Carter, whoever it is that's sitting there. They bypass the quarterback at that spot. What will be the first thing you say?
It's happened before, and it's happened again, and it's because the two best players in this draft, Greeny, are Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I have Hunter 1, Carter 2. Mason Graham, Michigan 3. Ashton Ginty, running back, Boise State 4, and then the quarterback. So if you're picking 1, 2, 3, and you can get arguably the best player in this draft at 2 and the same at 3, over the quarterback, you have to love the quarterback. We keep saying that, and it's accurate. You have to really have conviction about that quarterback, not just take him because he's a quarterback. If you feel that way about Shedeur, you take him over, say, a Travis Hunter if you're picking 3 and Carter goes 2, right? And you're staying at that spot. If you love Shedeur, you take him. But you got to find a quarterback. Bottom line is the Giants, within those first 2 rounds, are taking a quarterback. Now, their risky move here is wait till the second round. Are you going to get the guy you want? If you got 2 quarterbacks you really like, are you get one of those 2? Hopefully for them, you do. Because this is not going to be moving forward just, Wilson, Winston, DeVito. They're going to add a young quarterback via the first 2 rounds coming out of college this year to that quarterback room.
Yeah, this is really, again, this is an exercise in conviction. That's what happens when it comes to quarterbacks, because we know that they get pushed up the board. We know that we wind up stacking these guys at this position ahead of players at other positions simply because of the weight that the position carries within an overall roster build. We know that. And for the Giants, that to me is really what this comes down to. Do they feel, again, that this is a decade-long quarterback prospect in Shedeur Sanders, presumably, who's going to be sitting there staring them in the face? If they feel that he is, it doesn't matter what the rest of their board looks like because, quite honestly, without a quarterback, I don't care how many pieces you acquire on this football team, you're not going to make any headway in your own division and in the conference overall in the NFC. You're just not, and we all know that. So they they're going to have to dig down and go, look, whether or not Shedeur is the guy or not, we have to make that decision here, and we got to roll with it. And then, when it comes to like Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's future, like that really can't come into play for them. They cannot be looking to game this thing out so as to kind of preserve themselves.
But they're the ones who make this decision, Lewis, right? So that's a tough thing to take into account.
You know what? Actually, in the end, John Mara is the one who needs to wind up making this decision this time. He is the one. Because, look, we saw how this played out last time, as far as when we're talking about Saquon Barkley, when he kind of made it known what he felt was best for the organization, and they kind of went against it. I think for him now, this time, at this point in time, I think he's the one who has to play a big role in this.
Well,
big role.
If that's the case, then he's also let it be known that he expects an improvement on this team. These 2 guys, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, need to win. He also said one of the most important things we have to do this offseason is find our quarterback of the future. So if he's going to make this pick, he's already told us what he wants to do, and he's not even concerned about the winning part. Because if they're going to try to win this season, taking a quarterback at 3 is not the best thing to do. If they're worried about their future, then they need to figure out which quarterback prospect is the best for them, and you take him at 3. It's not that hard. It's really simple.
Of course it isn't.
It's not that hard, except it's almost impossible.
It is.
You're asking people to make decisions that basically go against their own financial, their own professional futures.
That's the problem.
But to your point, that's why the owner has to step in.
Exactly.
What do you want from an ownership standpoint?
But once the owner steps in and starts telling the people below him how to do their jobs, then those guys might as well not have those jobs to begin with.
Well, that's a whole different discussion.
Exactly.
That's the whole Cowboys discussion.
But coming up next, Travis Hunter. We know he started.
Maybe the Giants will take Travis Hunter, fire their coaches this year, and get Arch Manning next year. What do we think?
For him to pick 1. All right, so we've talked about the quarterbacks. Let's talk about the wide receivers. Number 1 on Mel's board is also his number 1 overall prospect. That is Colorado's Travis Hunter, who, of course, is much more than just a wide receiver. We'll talk about him in a moment. Mel's number 2 receiver is Matthew Golden from Texas, who ran 4.29 at the 40 at the Combine. Then there's Emeka Egbuka coming off a championship season at Ohio State, followed by T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan, and Mizzou's Luther Burden III. That is Mel's top 5. Shefty, let's circle it back to the number 1 player in this entire class, in many people's view. That's Travis Hunter, because there's so much speculation. Look, not since Chuck Bednarik have we really had a guy play both ways for the entirety of a game, and we don't expect that here. What are you hearing from teams about Travis Hunter and which side of the ball they expect him to play?
I think teams will view him as a cornerback, but they also can play him at a wide receiver. And because he's got all these skills, it doesn't mean that they're going to neglect one side of the football and feature him solely on the other. A player of this caliber is too good to be ignored. He's already demonstrated the ability to play everywhere at all times. And while I think some people across the league would be surprised if he had that frequency of play in the NFL, I think there will be teams that do feature him on both sides of the football. But I think his value as a cornerback would be high. You certainly could play him at wide receiver some, but I think most teams seem to be thinking of him more as a cornerback initially.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think, look, you can get your return on investment out of Travis immediately. He'll be a guy who will be in contention for a Pro Bowl berth, definitely all rookie, maybe defensive rookie of the year, and maybe even all pro, because of the fact that, look, corner is a very instinctive position. Obviously, there's a lot of technique that can go that's involved with it, and there's a lot of film work that's involved with it, and if you want to play at the highest of levels, but it's largely instinctive. And this guy has instincts that all of us only could dream of having, as far as route recognition, his natural body control, his natural explosiveness, and his hand-eye coordination. That is some of the best that I've ever seen. And I mean, as far as being a player, as far as being a scout.
Well, if Travis Hunter comes to the Patriots have two outside corners already.
In a long
so
time,
I think the Patriots would probably play him at receiver mostly.
I'll bring you guys inside of a team building. We have a team meeting, and then once you break the team meeting, you got to go offense or defense.
Right.
He's got to decide which one he's going. I think he goes defense first. He's going to the defensive meeting, first of all, and we're going to ingratiate him in our defense. But because of his instincts and because of his ball skills, to me, he's got some of the best ball skills that you've ever seen. You're not going to deny him the opportunity to also be on offense. You just can't major in both, Greeny. You got to major in one and minor in another. I don't care how great you are. We've seen Deion, Champ Bailey. A lot of people have tried to do it. It's hard to do on this level. And to me, that would be disrespect to the thousands of professional football players that have been great athletes before him. He's not going to
play 130 snaps. Set whatever the limit is you want. Call it 90, whatever.
Maybe the greatest to do it.
You can go 50-50 offense, defense. Who cares?
Has said he may even believe that this guy has more unique ability than maybe even he had, which is a big, big statement. And I can't wait to see him, in his pro day.
Mel?
He had a high football IQ, I'll tell you, incredible. And Travis, how about the stamina, the endurance to play both ways? And we haven't yet determined, because he's played both ways, where he's going to be best at, cornerback or wide receiver. Let it play out, then sprinkle him in on the other side of the ball. Big games, you get to the playoffs, Super Bowl, whatever, for Travis Hunter. I guarantee you right now, it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter that Cleveland's debating, and then you think whoever's left, the Giants are saying, do we take the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, or one of those guys who's at the top of the board? And the most disappointing team here will be the New England Patriots if Shedeur Sanders doesn't go 2 or 3. Because they felt like, okay, if Shedeur goes to 3 and Ward already went 1, we're guaranteed Carter or Hunter at 4, which probably is the best player on our board, the number 1 player on our board. If Shedeur doesn't go and these two go, then New England a little disappointed, right? But for Travis Hunter, he's a generational talent.
If the Patriots can't get either one, I don't know. Trade down a little bit then, I guess, at that point.
And not wear out. So we don't know. You imagine if he was just at one spot and focus on one position, how great he would be? He hasn't had that opportunity yet.
And to kind of a very quick question on this, and I'll get Shefty back in a minute here, but you took us inside the building. Let me ask you a different question. Yeah. How much say does he have in this? Because, listen, far be it from me to point this out. The highest paid corner in the NFL makes about $30 million a year. The highest paid receiver makes over $40 million a year. So if I'm him, I might lean towards the offensive side while you guys are saying the teams are wanting to play defense. Does he get a say in this?
He'll get a little say in that, but he's going to do what we say in the building first. We're going to put you on defense. We're going to explain why, and we're going to tell you, let's start here. And because you want to, here's what you're going to have to do to get to the other side of the ball. But you're definitely going to involve him. This is not a dictatorship, but understand, this is pro football. We're going to start where I want you to start at.
And that doesn't say that he can't be someone who kind of really transforms how cornerbacks are looked at, or his particular case, because of the fact that he is a two-way player anyway, and kind of blow the salary structure out of the water for corners anyway.
It might. Shefty, go.
Well, we're talking about these prospects being there 1, 2, 3. I think back to the last Sunday of the season when the New England Patriots are playing their division rival Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills are doing whatever they can to make sure that New England wins that game. So they fall out of the number 1 spot, a top pick, and fall to number 4. And if it goes the way that we're talking about it potentially going with Cam Ward going 1, Abdul Carter going 2, Travis Hunter going 3.
We had the #1 pick going into the last
loser
game, and
for
they
coming
sat
out
everybody.
and winning that last game against its division rival Buffalo, which now will not have to worry about facing Travis Hunter for the next decade or so.
Well, that's right. I mean, and look, the Giants won a game late, and that changed their draft position, and the Patriots won a game late, and that changed that draft position. It's always so fascinating to see, and this time of year we pay a lot more attention to it. We'll continue in just a moment on this draft countdown. Our next game is called Pick or Pass. So here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to give the guys a scenario, and what I do not want is for you to tell me what you would do. Excuse me. What I want is for you to tell me what you would do, not what you expect the team to do. So, Booger, I will start with you. Shamar Stewart has insane measurables, but he had only 1.5 sacks last year. So if you're in the draft room, Atlanta, at 15, do you pick or pass?
Oh, there's no doubt, Green. I'm going to pick, and I think if you're the Atlanta Falcons, and we've all heard this stat, they hadn't had a double-digit sack guy since 2016 of Vic Beasley. As a matter of fact, since 2019, they haven't had a guy that had more than 7 sacks. And so I think they have to get the pass rush right, Greeny. I'm staying and picking 6'5", 267. He lit the combine up with his workout, and it's going to be up to their defensive line coach and their defensive coordinator to unlock the potential where he can actually finish the plays and get sacked.
He's an athletic wonder of that, there is no question. Lewis, you're next. Will Campbell's arms measured 32 5/8 inches at the combine, leaving questions about his ability to play left tackle. So if you are the Jets at 7, do you pick or do you pass Will Campbell?
I'm picking him, and his arm length, to me, is not a factor whatsoever. This guy has vice grips for hands, and when you look at his arms, look at it right here on this video clip. You see the punch timing that he has. He times it up perfectly. He's stout as a rock. He's nimble as a ballerina out in space on the second level. And he's a guy who has shut down some very, very good pass rushers in the SEC. When you talk about Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, Texas A&M could not get anything on him in the game down there in College Station this past year. He's a guy who's a franchise caliber guy. If you're the Jets, you go ahead and you plug him in at left tackle, put Fasciano at right tackle, and you're off to the race.
All right, and the last one, I cannot wait to hear Mel's response to this. We've seen a couple of running backs in the top 10 in recent years, Mel. If you are in the Raiders draft room and Ashton Jeanty is there, do you pick him or do you pass?
You pass because of philosophy. Don't take a running back in the first round. I've said it for years. Everybody screamed at me. Guess what? The bandwagon's almost full now. Not much room left on that bandwagon because teams are all buying into what I said years ago, right, 25 years ago. He's 4th on my board. For the value, for where he's rated, yes, you take him. But from a philosophical standpoint, my philosophy is no running back in round 1.
Lewis?
Well, Mel, okay, so since the NFL now is an explosive play league, that's what every offensive coordinator is after. You have to have them. That's the way to flip a game on its head with a single play. If you're looking at Ashton Jeanty and you think you figure this year, 10 TDs of 50+, 8 TDs of 60+, and a guy who averaged over 145 yards per game after first contact, how can you pass up on this dude considering control standpoint? How can you pass up on him in the top 10? How could you?
Well, and this is a draft unlike that we've seen. I think the better players are going to be at some non-premium positions, running back, tight end, positions that you don't normally see go high in the draft. Those are some of the better players in this draft. And Greeny, I don't know if you had got an opportunity to see him at his pro day, Ashton Jeanty. Of
course.
To see how he was built, Greeny. Mm-hmm. You and I would pay a lot of money to be built like that right there, Greeny.
Well.
You need to have him walk off the bus, whatever team drafts him, shirt off in whatever city you guys are going to.
Right.
So I draft him on that alone. He has the talent and deserves to go in the first round. I think there are going to be 3 running backs, 3 in the first round. Jeanty, Hampton, and Henderson. I think all 3 of those guys go in the first round.
And let me say this. If I was built like Ashton Jeanty, I wouldn't own a shirt. But that's a whole other conversation that we can have another time. Mel, here's what I would say in response to your rule, which I respect. If you're going to take a running back in the first round, he better be special. He better be the kind of guy who's making an enormous difference, because I think the point of your rule is you can usually get a guy who's going to be just as good or close to as good or give you just as much production at a later time. Is Jeanty that level of special?
We can
is there
give you any example you want. Look at Bucky Irvin last year. There's examples every year
that might be available on the second and third day.
Yeah, they've all been really good, Greeny, all these backs, and I had them graded high. But the philosophy is don't take them in the first round. Ashton Jeanty and Lewis, listen to what I said. Lewis, He is a heck of a player. He's 4 on the board. Love everything you're saying about him. Love the kid. Love the talent. But a running back in round 1 to me doesn't make any sense. Most of these guys are on their second team when they win. Fournette, Super Bowl, right? Second team, Tampa. Where was Saquon? Second team, Philadelphia, winning a Super Bowl. So to me, no. If you're the Raiders, build that team up. Get a running back 3rd, 4th, 5th round where you'll find one this year. And when you are a team that is one running back away,
if you're a Raiders fan out there in the comments, who do you guys want if it's not Ashton Genty?
You got to be disciplined. You got a philosophy. If you have parameters, you got a range, you got to stick to it. You can't deviate from what you believe in. So for me, it's always been, for 25 years now, no running back in round 1. Even though I have him 4th on the board, I'm not taking him. But I understand, Lewis, why the Raiders at 6, no lower than the Cowboys at 12, would take Ashton Genty. Because Amari and Hampton, North Carolina is close. Then there's a drop-off after Hampton down the line.
Yeah, look, I just think, look, this is a kid who I think if he gets to the right place, and I had put this on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, just the other day. He gets to a place that has a top 10 offensive line in terms of like run block win rate. A team that can actually move the line of scrimmage like I believe the Chicago Bears will be able to do this year. I think this kid will challenge. If you give him the touches, which he is more than capable of handling, he will challenge Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. He'll challenge 1,800 yards. He has that kind of build and that kind of stamina to do it.
To Mel's original point, though, if you look at really effective running backs last year, Saquon Barkley, second team. Derrick Henry, second team. Josh Jacobs, second team.
But this has nothing to do with the kid's individual talent.
Right.
I mean, that has nothing to do. Right. I mean, if your team somehow, some way isn't able to develop an offensive line, then of course he's going to be muted somewhat in terms of his production.
If the rule is the rule, then it doesn't make any difference how good the player is. But Mel's point is still a good one. He's the 4th best player in this draft, according to Mel Kiper. We are by no means done yet on this program. We have let's make some bold predictions. What are going to be the stunners on night 1 of this year's draft? Mr. McFarland, we start with you.
Other than Travis Hunter, and we're going to classify him as a DB, I think there's only going to be one wide receiver picked in the 1st round. I think we look at this wide receiver class, maybe not as talented as in years past, and I think other positions are going to put them down. 6 edges, I think, go in the 1st round, 5 offensive tackles, 3 quarterbacks screening. That's 14 players already. I think 1 wide receiver, non-Travis Hunter, goes in the 1st round.
Mel, bold prediction.
Hey, I'll tell you what, the edge rusher I love, and nobody has him at 21 on their big board like I do, is Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. I'll bet Shamar Stewart, right? He had, 4.5 sacks over the last 3 years. Ezeraku, 16.5 this past season. 8 forced fumbles over the last 3 years. 6'2.5", nearly 250, but he's got long arms, great bend, production and talent comes together. This kid's going to be an edge riser by the time we get to late April.
There's definitely going to be some surprise first-round picks. It feels like there's a lot less first-round grades this year. There's probably less than 20.
I know Shefty's probably sitting somewhere
maybe closer to 10. I'm not really sure, but you could get some wild card names going in that first round at the end of it anyway.
Surrounding the quarterback position with Aaron Rodgers continues to linger. This guy is going to surprise people when he gets to the NFL. He's tailor-made for it. He has every characteristic that you want.
And finally, I'll give you mine here. You
Carter
or
Travis, then
someone somewhere is going to make a trade.
We should trade back.
They would all like to get up to get Cam Ward. I don't think any of them will be able to. But teams will want to get in, and teams will want to get out. So I believe we will have a trade, hopefully on the clock, in the top 4 picks of the draft.
You know what, that's a pretty good bold prediction. I can't wait to be sitting there in Green Bay watching it as it happens.
Patriots trade their pick to an NFC team. I just don't know who it would be. Maybe the Saints?
Yeah, Booger does not like cold weather.
I'm with you, bro.
I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.
We'll see you in Green Bay.